Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. This is Giacomo Marchesi and Danny Taylor of Vegan Proteins. And today we're going to talk to you about what being vegan means to us.
And you might be wondering, Danny, why are you bundled up to the high heavens and Giacomo is in a tank top? Well, Giacomo is pretending that he's not freezing.
Well, the light over there is warming me up, and this is how I perform my activism, by looking this way no matter how cold it is.
No, I will not put on those airs for you. So Giacomo and I are in a mini battle to see who's gonna cave and turn the heat on first.
Not gonna be me.
It's 59 degrees in here today.
Anyways, so why don't you define veganism for us?
Sweet transition.
You gotta move fast. I mean, how are you gonna keep the video under 30 minutes?
Quick. All right, what is veganism, guys? I'm gonna read the actual definition of the word veganism by the Vegan Society. Veganism is a philosophy and a way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practical, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose, and by extension, promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. It's a pretty all-encompassing definition.
Yeah, it really is. It seems like a large responsibility, and I feel like it's one that's arguably worth taking on as an individual. And I also feel like at some point we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace throughout the process and let go a little bit and try to find our balance.
Well, right in the definition, it says to all possible and practical extents. So, and I think the most important thing about it is veganism. In nowhere in there did it say veganism is a diet. Nowhere did it say that, because veganism isn't a diet. Veganism is a philosophy and a way of living. And I think that as veganism or plant-based dieting becomes more and more popular, which is awesome.
By the way,
the two get conflated, that a plant-based diet is veganism or veganism is just a plant-based diet. And I understand that probably sounds like someone's just playing semantics, but it's a pretty important distinction, I would say. And they're both good. They're both great, even. We like them both, but they're not the same thing.
Right, so the fear here is, of course, how do we not dilute the message and how do we be true to the lifestyle? Well, first off, and I think this has been smashed into bits and pieces by now, it's like if someone's going plant-based, they are exploiting fewer and fewer animals, because I mean, what do you save, like 100 plus animals a year just by not eating animals or animal byproducts? So I think it's important to be an inclusive community without losing our ethics and morals entirely, and to give people a chance to get there. I mean, it's been like 15 years for me, and I am still learning what it means to be vegan, while also accepting that I'm not going to be able to do everything perfect.
It's really important. We got a great email this week from somebody who listens to our podcast or watches the YouTube channel. And basically the email was like, you know, I really want to be vegan, but when I think about all of the holes in veganism, all of the ways that I cannot be perfectly vegan all of the time, it feels like, why bother? And I understand that sentiment. I remember kind of feeling that way way back. Well, way back, like 16, 17 years ago. I'm in my 19th year now of veganism. Actually, this month is the anniversary. And it's so worth it. It's so worth it even if you can't be 100% perfect. And when we say this, I don't mean accidentally like, oh, well, I feel like pizza with regular dairy cheese, so I'm just gonna have that. I'm talking about things like you're sick and your doctor prescribes you a medication that you need to take to get better, and you know it's been tested on animals. What are you gonna do? You're gonna take it. That's what you're gonna do, because to all possible and practical extents, you're no good to animals if you're dead. So I think that's the kind of thing we're talking about. We're talking about, you know, animals that die in a field when you're harvesting crops is still going to be significantly less than one eating our animal directly, and all of the animals that die in the crop harvesting to feed the animal. It's still significantly less and worth doing if that's something that's important to you.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, there's so many different places where there's work that can be done. There's the fact that animal agriculture is not going to disappear, and we have to lobby for better, more humane treatment for animals while they're alive. Yes, animal slaughter, there's no humane way to slaughter an animal. However, if they're going to be processed that way, we still need to find a way to be humane to them before the fact, while hopefully animal agriculture is going to be a thing of the past. These are painful things to work through. It's easy to be the angry vegan and be like, no, this is not right. And guess what? Those people out there doing that work on the front lines are helpful too. Other vegans are out there living off the grid, living their pure life, living their best life, eating nothing but the food that they produce off the land. Like, should we be upset about that because it's not helping the mainstream and it's not a way for the average person to find themselves connected to veganism? No, of course not. The point is, there's so many different things at work here, and I feel like veganism is basically what we need to do in order to evolve as a species, so that we can hopefully not destroy this earth and leave it better off than we found it over the course of the next several hundred years, hopefully.
And I think that it's, we can get lost in that big picture. I know that I certainly did get lost in that big picture of like, oh my God, everything, the machine is so big and so powerful, and what the hell of a difference am I possibly going to make? And it's a great question. And you can only focus on you. Really, you can only focus on you. You can't even focus on your inner circle, because we have learned, like, hammering away at your friends and family about why veganism is important does nothing to change them. Rather, focusing on yourself and living by example and showing how easy and fun and healthy it can be, that's what piques people's interest. But just focusing on yourself and what you can do and what is within your capability, over time, enough people have done that it's actually making a difference now. When I went vegan, I didn't know any vegans. I didn't know one person, one human being who was vegan. And now it's like almost funny. Remember the vegan bodybuilding movement back in 2008? We knew every single person in it personally. We knew every single person personally, where they lived, what they were doing, what they were up to. That's how tiny it was. That was only 12 years ago. I am blown away that every single day there's people I've never even heard of that just pop up in this feed or that feed. And I'm like, oh look, this person is vegan, or at least this person is plant-based. And again, important distinction, but do the animals care if you're vegan or you're plant-based? Not really. The animals don't care why you stop eating them. And that was, it still grinds me a little bit when people are plant-based and call themselves vegan, or plant-based and wear leather head to toe, or all sorts of similar thing, wear fur and call themselves vegan. It's like, I don't love that. But is them eating a fully plant-based diet still beneficial? Absolutely.
Right. So while it might not be vegan per se, you can't define those types of actions as vegan. In the long term, it still is contributing towards the greater good. So I think that there are certain things that we have had in the past that we hold on to, whether they're, I don't know, like a wool jacket that you inherited from your grandfather, or like a glove made out of lambskin that you had when you were playing racquetball, for example. That doesn't make you a bad person because you have them and still choose to use them. The fact of the matter is that an animal had to die for those things, and they're in your house. Throwing out those items and buying something new because you want to feel better about wearing something that is cruelty-free is arguably worse for the environment. So I realize I'm getting lost in the details here, but this is just one small example. There are other things where I feel like the real work has to begin and continue, and that's how we sort through things emotionally, because these choices can repeat themselves and you can wind up continuing to contribute towards that. And if you're that individual, that vegan who is shaming somebody or judging someone or punishing someone for their decisions and speaking out against them, while I suppose there's some truth to that and to get that person to come to understand, I also feel like we need to lead by example and be somewhat more accepting while people are able to sort out their emotions, hopefully, and get to a place where they're contributing less towards animal exploitation.
I do think there are lines here, though. You know, if a single individual is conflating the word I'm vegan when they're actually plant-based, that's one thing. We could talk about this on a corporate or a business level separately, because I do feel like a lot of businesses and a lot of corporations are latching on to the word vegan to sell more products and make more money, and it has absolutely nothing to do with ethics. I feel like that's kind of a separate conversation. Are those businesses still doing some good? I think so. I hope so. Time is going to tell. But you know, there are some gray areas here, and it's okay that there are gray areas. The fact that there are gray areas, in my opinion, is not a good enough reason to be like, well, these arguments are not perfect, I'm out. I lost my train of thought. So I think that we need to be open and inviting to all of the steps that somebody takes towards being fully plant-based, or coming around and coming around to the philosophy and being fully vegan. There's lots of areas that are not just like, this is the right thing to do and this is the wrong thing to do. I'll give you an example. You order a veggie burger at a restaurant with no cheese, and it comes out and it has cheese. What do? Like, do you send it back and then it just goes in the trash and they bring you a fresh one? Do you just eat it? I know that we wouldn't eat it. That's just us personally, we wouldn't eat it. But as I talk about the argument, you can see how it actually might be a little bit sillier to just throw it in the trash, right? So there are arguments out there. There are situations where you're not gonna find the perfect answer. Screw what other people think. Do what you feel in your heart is the right thing to do. As long as you're living in alignment with your ethics and your morals, then you're being true to yourself. And of course, we dream of a world where everybody is vegan and everybody is understanding of this philosophy and comes around to it. We're also not stupid enough to think that that's going to happen in our lifetimes. We would be happy if everybody was plant-based, and it may not happen in our lifetime, but I actually do think that it will happen at some point.
It might. We're slowly but surely, or not too slowly, getting to a point where we cannot survive continuing the way that we're going. And there's enough change on a global scale as far as the food supply is concerned that these kinds of ideas will more than trickle out. They'll be accepted and embraced as far as the eye can see. So yeah, and at the end of the day, I feel like there's still going to be that chance where there's those frustrations, like why can't everything be cruelty-free on a purely like physical level? Like why does it have to be glue and tires, for example?
Or why does there have to be whey in everything? Barbecue chips? Get out of my chips. Why are you here?
Seriously.
Enraging.
Yes, but if we get so lost in those kinds of details that we can't have a loud enough voice to lead by example and to continue to contribute towards the greater good, towards this philosophy and ideology, then we're going to wind up moving in the wrong direction and losing the message entirely.
So if you are thinking about moving more towards a plant-based diet, but you're afraid that you're going to do it imperfectly, do it imperfectly. Take the steps, ask the questions, don't be afraid of other people's judgments. Just take the steps, and every little step adds up for your health, for the environment, for animal welfare. You're voting with your dollars. Every time you don't purchase an animal product and you do purchase a plant-based product, you are telling the companies, hey, less of this, more of this, please. And the supply will meet the demand over time. And that's what we're seeing now in 2020, when it seems like, I mean, the rate at which companies are adopting vegan products and adopting more plant-based methods of creating their products is like exponential. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, picking up steam. That's how it seems from the outside of an almost 20-year vegan, and it's pretty damn cool.
And at the end of the day, when all else fails, I feel like it's important to lead with a sense of self with kindness and compassion, because without that, there is no way that we're going to continue to point this movement in the right direction until it becomes the new normal.
Well, thanks so much for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. It's kind of like a podcast recorded live. If you guys ever want to see anything like that, just let us know. If you are not a part of our Facebook group, please join it down below. It's going to be the top comment here, or the top link. It's going to be the top link here. It's called Muscles by Brussels, Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness Group on Facebook, and it has lots of intelligent, like-minded people, interesting discussions, and supportive folk, and we would love to have you there.
Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll be in touch.
Talk to you next week.